Welcome to episode 37 of the Queen City Yarn Dye to Knit podcast. I am Kristen, and this is a podcast about knitting and yarn dyeing and crochet and weaving, pretty much just my adventures in making things. Thank you so much for joining me today. This is the first episode of 2022. I am going to share a lot today. I'll start off by talking about my accomplishments in 2021, my crafty accomplishments, all the things that I've finished, kind of a year in review at the beginning. And then I have a bunch of finished objects to talk about and put in pictures for, because many of the things that I've finished since we last chatted in early November have been gifted for the holidays. And then I have some things that I'm working on that I'm excited to share with you. So since last time, it's been a couple of months. Today is the 13th of January, so it's been a full 2 months plus a week, and lots of crafting has been happening here. And so let's kind of get into it. I'm going to start off by talking about my year in review. I really enjoy taking a look back through the year and finding out, what did I actually accomplish, because I forget all the things that I've made. And so I'm really excited. Let's see, let me grab my list so I can share with you. So I knit 8 sweaters during 2021. I'm actually wearing my most recent finish. This is the FELIX pullover. This was on the needles the last time we chatted. And so I'll talk a little bit more about it in FOs, but it is one of the 8 sweaters that I finished. 6 of them were adult size garments. The first one was a super bulky Autumn League pullover that I knit for my daughter Caitlin last January for her birthday. So that is a kid size, but she liked it. She was liking her sweaters and still is pretty oversized. So I did, I think, an adult small on that. And then I had one baby sweater, but the rest were adult size sweaters. And so 8 sweaters finished for the year. That's not so bad. I finished 14 pairs of socks. I think 3 of those pairs were DK weight socks, like my Swift gift sock pattern, or something similar. And so 14 pairs of socks. I finished 2 baby blankets. In 2021, I was blessed with a new niece and a new nephew, and each of them got a colorwork baby blanket. That was early in the year in 2021. I finished 2 cowls, 17 hats, which I will talk about many of them in the finished objects set, because a lot of people got hats for the holidays. I finished 3 pairs of fingerless mitts, 3 gnomes, and 18 ornaments, as well as a pillow, 2 fidget bracelets, an ear warmer, and a wall hanging that I shared. So 75 finished objects, and I released 6 designs for Kristen Clement Designs. So I want to go through those as well. That was my goal, was to release 6 designs. So I'm really excited that I met that goal. I didn't think that I would after the year that I had last year, but I did. So I'm going to share what those were with you. The first design that I released was the Berry Twill socks. Those are colorwork cuff socks using Queen City Yarn Berry Hill, which is the exclusive base for Queen City Yarn. And so I was really excited to release those. The next design was the Sporty Shorty socks, which get a lot of love. I was very, very proud of that design. Figuring out how to make that back cuff come up the way I wanted it to was such a great aha moment that I had last year. And I'm really excited to say that a lot of folks are loving them and finding that they fit really well. So if you haven't tried them yet, you may want to check out the Sporty Shorty socks. The next design that I released was the Cozy Crisp Cabled Mitts. Those are fingerless mitts that I released early fall. And so that was the only pair of mitts I released. I released a cowl, the hashtag CHADBOURN cowl, that was released in October, right in time for Indie Untangled and Rhinebeck. That was using the Queen City yarn Berry Hill and the new CHADBOURN, which is the marled version of Berry Hill. And then I released the DK weight of the TREADHEAD hat pattern, which I'd had lots of folks asking for, and I also offered expanded sizes in that one, and I was very excited for that. And then finally, the design that I'm most proud of for last year is the Hat for Dan design. It's probably the simplest design that I've ever written, but it has such big meaning for me. That is a hat design that I designed in memory of my brother-in-law that we lost last year, Daniel, and I am donating all the proceeds from that pattern to the firehouse that he volunteered his time at. And I'm so excited to say that for the year of 2021, the pattern was released the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, and in 2021 I was able to donate $443.75, and that just makes me feel so good. I think that Dan would be so proud of that. And I look forward to continuing to make donations for the Hat for Dan pattern. I'll be donating 100% of the pattern sales to his firehouse, the Morton Rutledge Firehouse Fire Company, and I'll be making donations for sales every month. So I'm looking forward to doing that, and it just makes me feel really good. So I want to say a big thank you for your support with that pattern, for purchasing that pattern and sharing it with your friends and your followers on Instagram, and yeah, made me very proud. So thanks so much. Okay, so that is kind of, wait, did I finish? Did I say everything? That I knit gnomes, and yeah, I did the designs. Yeah, I think I told you. I think that's the year in review. Lots of knitting, you know, some designing, and yeah, let's jump into finished objects. Pause for just a minute and grab my computer so I can tell you about them all, because I don't have them all here with me. Okay, I'm back. If you see me looking down, it's because I have my computer in my lap so that I can tell you about all of the finishes since we last chatted. There are so many finished objects. I didn't actually count them, but this is going to be a while, so grab something warm, or if you don't want something warm, I guess something cold to drink. I've got coffee as usual. And settle in with a project, because I have so many things to share with you that I have finished. I'm going to put pictures in for the things that I don't have with me, which are many of them. So we'll be doing like a split screen situation for part of the time at least. So the first thing that I finished that I wanted to share is my FELIX pullover. This is the second time that I've knit this sweater, and I really love it. My mom and I knit it, and are actually twins with it because we got even the same color. This is the Kelbourne Woolens Lucky Tweed. It only took me 4 skeins to complete this sweater. I'm gonna stand up so you can see it. I really love the way that it fits. Oop, my microphone is kind of there a little, so you can see it fits just at my hip. My hip bones are here, and I really love the way that it fits. I did make the sweater just a little bit longer than the pattern calls for, but I'm very happy with how it fits. I think I knit an additional 2 inches because it's intended to be a cropped sweater, and I wanted mine a little bit longer. The first one that I made is cropped, and it does look cute over dresses and stuff like that, but for like my everyday kind of style, cropped is not what I generally wear, so I knit it a little bit longer, and I absolutely love it. The yarn was really nice to knit with. It's very cushy and bouncy and woolly and warm, which has been necessary up here because it has gotten very cold in Pennsylvania. Okay, so that is the only sweater finish that I have to share with you since we last chatted. I have finished 5 pairs of socks, so, and I only have one of them to show, so I'll save that one for last and I'll put pictures in for these. So the first pair of socks that I finished were the BOOZY Christmas socks, and I was not quite 100% honest with you the last time I chatted about these socks, because I said that they were for my sister-in-law, because I know that Janice watches the podcast. But these booty socks were actually for Janice, and they were day 1 of the advent calendar that I knit for her, or that I made up for her. So I did this year for the advent calendars that I made up. I used leftovers of my self-striping yarn that I had for socks, knit socks and stuff. So there was 12 days of yarn, of mini skeins of self-striping yarn, and then the other days were either handmade things that I had made for them, or little notions, or kind of fun little tchotchke kind of things. And so the BOOZY Christmas socks were what Janice opened up first, and I did those in like a booty length, so it's a very short cuff. That is going to be perfect for her when she does venture out into the world to wear with some of the cute little booties that she has. She always dresses up when she goes out like that, so I thought that some booty socks would be good for her. I used a US 2.25 needle. The yarn was from Bay Street Yarns, and it was called BOOZY Christmas, and I did the double gusset heel on those. And then I also knit socks for my friend Alexis for her day 1, and I knit her some DK weight socks. So Alexis and I have the same size feet, and randomly over the past couple of years I've gone through my sock drawer and kind of pulled some out that I wasn't wearing as often, and kind of like handed them down to her. And so she has quite a few pairs of hand knit socks that I've made, but I've never made her like a fresh pair. So I felt like she needed a fresh pair of hand knit socks to start out with her advent calendar that I made for her. So I used some REGIA PAIRFECT in the 6 ply, which is the DK weight. So they went really fast because let's be honest, like I was on a very serious time crunch at this point. So I used a DK weight REGIA and a US 3, and I did a top down sock, and I did a fish lips kiss heel, strictly because that is the quickest heel for me to make. And yeah, I think she loves them too. So socks for both of them. And then I knit my brother a pair of socks for Christmas. Socks for Chad. Those I used socks that rock lightweight in the Secrets colorway. I used a US 2, and I did a top-down sock with a double gusset heel for him. I usually knit him 2 pairs of socks every year, a pair for his birthday and a pair for Christmas. This year for his birthday he got one of the prototypes for the hat for Dan, and he really likes it, but I knew he wanted some socks, so I knit him some socks for Christmas, and they fit, and he liked them and everything. And then I knit one more pair of gift socks. These were the sugar plum socks that I knit for my sister-in-law Kristen, and this worked out because I actually found these tubes fully knit with toes and everything, and I just had to add in heels, so that worked out really good. I found them in my basket, and I was like, perfect, that's, 2 heels, I can do that pretty quickly. So that was using CATALYSTYARNS in the sparkle sock in the sugar plum colorway, and a US 1 needle, and those are just afterthought socks. I knit 2 tubes with cuffs on one, started at the cuff and down and knit the toe, and then I just cut in the heel where I know she needs her heel, which I've measured for and all that stuff. And then the last pair of socks that I actually have here with me. These are the Cozy Knitter 24 stripe socks for 2021. I finished these right before the end of the year, and I had all intentions of knitting a stripe a day. In November I knit 2 cuffs. I just used a coordinating color that I had in my stash, this brown. I believe it was Wool Mice Twin, in the Palomino colorway, I think that's what that is. And then I started out knitting a stripe a day until this stripe. So let's see, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days worth, 1 week of knitting a stripe a day. And then reality sunk in, and I knew that I needed to really work on my holiday knitting. And so I set these aside, and I actually took these with me when we went home for the holidays and worked on them some then. Finished them up before the end of the year, but I wanted to leave this. Oh, this is a sugar plum polymer clay stitch marker that was in my advent from my friend Alexis. So I marked that where I kind of stopped doing the daily knitting. And so I knit these top down. I did these as afterthought heel socks, and I used the seam for the toe. On this one though, I ran out of this Woolmise leftover after the heel on this sock, and so I just pulled another brown out of the stash, mini stash, and knit that. Actually, I think this is one of the browns that I used in another pair of socks that I'm going to, let's see, that I'm going to show you. Did I tell you about the, there may have been another pair of socks, a DK weight pair of socks that I knit for my sister-in-law. I'll put a picture of those in. Those I was knitting for my father-in-law last year, I think, and I had my husband try them on, and they were too small. And so I just stuck them in the bag. And what I ended up doing, they were too small in circumference for what he thought his dad was going to need. And so I actually ripped out and re-knit the toe on the first one where it needed to be, and then did the second one for my sister-in-law, Danny. So yeah, I finished those, but I didn't put those on my list. So there's another pair of socks. But anyway, I think this was left over from knitting the heels on those socks. So that's all the socks that I finished since we last chatted. Quite a bit of socks. Now, hats. There are so many hats. I knit hats for most of the people on my list this year. Most everyone on my husband's side of the family got hats made for them using my Hat for Dan pattern. I think everyone really liked them. So I'm going to talk about them. I don't have any of them. So I'm going to talk about them and I'll add pictures in. So the first one that I did was for my sister-in-law, Amanda. Hers, I did the adult medium with moderate slouch, which is similar to the style that I did for mine. Or my gray one, that is like the pattern photo. For her hat, I used Queen City Yarn Biddleville DK in the rust colorway. And for all of these, no, just kidding. For hers, I used a size 4 and 6 needles. For the next one, I knit one for Megan, and I wanted hers to be a little extra, and so I actually held our Biddleville DK in the I Don't Do the Sunday Crossword colorway with a mohair. And so what I did was I went down a size, so I would have knit her the adult medium, which is what I wear as well, but I went down a size and I went up in needles to account for holding that mohair along with the DK weight yarn. And so I used Biddleville DK and Rowan Kid Silk Haze, which is pretty much the same as any mohair I think you can get, like mohair silk blend. And so that was from Stash. I just had left over, and I used a dark gray colorway for that. And I think it worked up really well. So because I was using like a heavier weight of yarn, like I said, I went down and knit the adult small, but I went up in needles. So instead of using a US 4 and 6 like the pattern calls for, I used a US 6 and 8 to account for the heavier weight of yarn, and that turned out really cute too. And then I knit one for my brother-in-law, Steven. I did the adult medium for him in a more fitted version, not a slouchy version. And I used Biddleville DK in the Sharpies versus the Fridge colorway. And I believe the picture that I have to show is of him holding his son, Nicholas. And he's also wearing a Hat for Dan in Bluetiful. But I finished his before. I think I talked about it before. If not, I'm missing talking about his and Colton's, but lots of hats. I also knit one for Uncle Joe, and for his I used the adult medium fitted version, and I used a Cascade 220 superwash in a dark gray colorway, and I found that knit up just like the Biddleville DK for me, so I used the US 4 and 6 needles for that as well. I also used Cascade 220 in a darker gray for my father-in-law Bill. I did the adult medium, the fitted version, and US 4 and 6 needles, and I used Cascade 220 superwash in a light gray for the hat for Dan for my nephew Jacob. For him I did the child size, the child/adult small in a fitted version, and I used the 4 and 6 needles. And then 2 more, and I used Queen City Yarn Biddleville DK for both of these. I made the hat for Dan for John in the adult medium. He is he's older, so I felt he needed a little bit more. I didn't think the child size would fit him that well, so I made him the adult medium, the fitted version, and I used the colorway that's pretty new called Mr. Big is Back that Janice dyed up and took up to Black Mountain Yarn Shop for the Indie Extravaganza that was this year, and I loved the way that colorway turned out, so I knew that I wanted to use it, so I used it for that hat for John. And then also my nephew Joey, I made him the child slash adult small size in a fitted version, and I used Queen City Yarn Biddleville DK in the I Don't Do the Sunday Crossword colorway, and a US 4 and 6 needles. So those are all the hats. Lots and lots of hats. I have made 1 pair of mitts since we last chatted. I used my Cozy Crisp cabled mitts pattern as kind of a starting point for these mitts. So the original pair that I made that are in the pattern photo in the rust colorway using Biddleville DK, my daughter claimed those very quickly, and my son wanted a pair too, and so I decided, well, I would knit him a pair, but I wasn't going to do all the cables on them, so I just did them in ribbed version. I used the Queen City Yarn Studio series, I think it was the November skein, and it matches his coat really well. They're super cute, but he does say that he wants just a pair of blue ones, so I actually have another pair on the needles that I'll show you. But this is a ribbed version of the Cozy Crisp cable mitts, the child size, and I used a US 3 and 4, and they fit really well. And I think that once I work another couple pairs, I'll probably add in I'll do a ribbed version and share that as well, because I think that the cables are beautiful, but I don't know, I like just a ribbed, I think, for the men in my life, so I think that's going to be upcoming, having that written out. And then I also finished 2 gnomes, and I have one of them, so I'm going to grab him. So I will show the one that I'll put the picture in first for the one I don't have, and then I'll talk about this guy that I do have. So the first gnome that I finished was called Here We Gnome Again, and I knit this one for my mom for Christmas, and I used Cascade 220 in the non-superwash sport weight, and actually the yarn that I used is left over from the stockings that I have made for my family, and I love the way he turned out. He is all over cabled and like twisted stitches, and just he was very intricate to work. Like the charts were no joke. I was really glad that I had one of those chart keepers to kind of keep track of everything, but he turned out so good, and I think she really, really liked him. I want to make one for myself, and I probably will do that this year, but I need a few months, I think, before diving back into all those charts and cables and stuff. The other gnome that I finished was the mystery gnome called Leave Gnome Stone Unturned. So both of these gnomes are by Imagined Landscape, and I have made a couple of her gnomes this year, and I just really enjoy them. And so I did the holiday one that she designed this year. He has a little dude in the backpack. How cute, right? So let's see if I can figure out where that zoom is. So you can see I did a little bit of embroidery on his patch with a little holly leaf and some berries, and I did French knots for those, and I was very excited with how they turned out because that's not one of my strong suits, but they turned out the first time I did each one, so I was super pumped about that. And he's got a little ribbed beard and a little backpack with a little gnomey friend back here. He's too cute. So for this guy, I used Queen City yarn, the NODA sock, and the colorway Jam Session, which is the red. Irish Disappearing Trick is the green, and I used, I believe this is just an undyed birthday suit kind of skein. And then I used leftovers of, I don't remember who the dyer was for this, but it was a holiday skein that Janice had brought me back. She actually got herself one too, and we have matching socks with it. But I had a little bit left over, and so that's what I used for the backpack and for the stripes. So I'm super excited. Let me grab my other holiday gnome and just tell you really quickly. So this is the first holiday gnome that I did, and I did him last year, and he was so much fun. Like so much fun to work. So each day you get a little clue, and so now I have 2 holiday gnomes, and Imagine Landscapes is actually doing a gnome knit along this year, and so you like knit a gnome a month, and I really want to do that. And so I told Janice I wanted to do that, and I was like, well, I need more yarn. And so we actually had some fun putting some kits together because she has knit these gnomes as well. And so we have a kit that has like my kind of traditional Christmas holiday colors as a kit. She's got a more like kind of modern holiday color kit that she has used for her gnomes. And then we also have a kit featuring the colors that I used for like my office gnomes that I've showed off before. So my intention is to knit a few more holiday gnomes and a few more office gnomes this year to kind of add to the crew, and I'm really excited about that. So those are in the shop now over at queencityyarn.com. Should you need a gnome kit to knit gnomes along with me, I think you should. There's so many people doing it. It's going to be so much fun. Okay, so those are the gnomes. Then I made a couple of cup cozies for the kids' teachers and for the school nurse, who has been totally amazing with the kids, and I just can't even imagine the workload that she's got going on this year with all the kids being in person and still COVID and everything. So for the teachers, I used a Tin Can Knits pattern called Main Street, and that was in a DK weight, and I used some leftover Woolmize DK that I had, just a leftover ball of red rolling around. So I made those 2, ran out of that yarn, and then I wanted to make a cup cozy for the teacher, or for the nurse as well, and so I used some leftover self-striping sock yarn, and I just knit a garter strip until it was big enough to go around the cup, and then I seamed it together, and that was it. And I just put them around some reusable Starbucks cups with gift card and candy canes and chocolates inside, and that was the teacher gifts this year. And then I made some ornaments. So I made 3 gnome ornaments, and those went into the advent calendars that I made for my mom and Janice and Alexis. So I'll show a picture of those. For those, I use the, it's another Imagine Landscapes design called No Fun Like Gnome Fun. And in that pattern, it's all different sizes of gnomes using all different weights of yarn. And so I knit the little mini ones to be ornaments and included those in the advent calendars that I made up. So that was a lot of fun, and everybody really liked them. Janice has had hers sitting on her desk, and I think it's bringing her a lot of joy. So I was super excited about that too. So I also made 8 crocheted ornaments. I did this crochet ball ornament. I don't have the name of the pattern, but I put it in my Ravelry. If Ravelry is not something that you can use and you'd like the name, I'm pretty sure I just found it online and linked it on Ravelry, but leave a comment asking for it and I'll put it in. So this was a lot of fun to make. It's actually 2 pieces that you then seam together. You can kind of see my seam here, and it's like a granny square, but it's a circle. It's kind of like a granny square. Same kind of idea for the way they're made. I am no crochet genius. This is not my strong suit, but these were super easy to make and they were a lot of fun and they worked up super quickly. And I still have some of these clear plastic ornaments, so I'm going to make some more of these for sure. Like I said, most of them were included in Advents. And then I have 2 cross-stitching finished objects, which I think this is the first. Is this the first time I've ever showed a cross-stitch finished object? Probably, because I think I only have maybe one other one that's in the kids' bathroom. So I finished 2 cross-stitch ornaments, and I'm super excited about them. So this is the first one that I did, which was probably the hardest because it's on this green fabric and it was hard to see the holes, and there is a mistake in it, but I'm still really happy with how it turned out. And I just glued some felt on it that says that I stitched 2021 on it. So this one is completely finished and I'm just gonna put a hanger on it and hang it on the tree as an ornament. This was from a kit. I don't remember the name of the kit, but I got it from Fancy Tiger Crafts, I believe. And then this, okay, so I made this one and I absolutely love it. I had all intentions, there are 12 more designs, holiday designs. I had all intentions of making one of these every other day in December. And there just wasn't time. So I've stitched the first one. This one was a free one, and then it was a pattern from Erica Ardent, I think is her name. She had like 12 days of stitching, and she also had a quilting one too, but I don't know how to quilt, so, and I barely know how to cross stitch, but I was super excited with how this one turned out. And I intend to make more. I still have to finish the back of it. I don't know the best way to do that. Like this one, I just glued this felt onto, and I think that works. But I feel like people finish them a lot prettier than that. I need to do some research on how. So I'll figure that out. But I'm gonna make more of these. I have the thread, or the floss and the fabric and the little hoops. Now I didn't stitch it in this hoop, actually. I stitched it without a hoop because it was so small and that just worked for me. I didn't feel like it had to be stretched really to stitch. And so, but I have the hoops because I want to finish them in the hoops and hang them on the tree. So that, I have one more finished, no, a couple more finished things to talk about. Like I said, there's so many finished things because of the holidays. I also finished 2 marble fidget bracelets, which I'm not even positive that I have finished photos of those. I decided to make those up. I think Christmas Eve is when I decided I was going to make those for the kids. My friend Shayna of Shayna Lyons Designs designed marble fidget bracelets and another marble fidget square, I think, and it's very simple to make. She offers them as free patterns, and I know my kids would enjoy them. So I made one each for Caitlin and for Ryan, and I thought maybe I would make them for some of my nephews, but I didn't end up having time or doing that. So I made 2 fidget bracelets. I used DK weight yarn for both of them. For Ryan's, I used Queen City Yarn Biddleville DK in Sharpies versus the Fridge leftovers. And for Caitlin's, I used a red DK weight that I had in my like ornament making bag. And I have 2 more finished projects. One I don't have with me. I'll talk about it last and show a picture of my daughter being very silly wearing it. But The first one I have is a broken rib cowl. So this is, I bought this yarn, I went with my mom to the yarn shop. Is that like a pulled stitch or something? Oh, that's where I wove the end in. Anyway. I went to the local yarn shop, Crazy For You, with my mom right before Christmas because I never get in there and it's such a nice shop. So I went in with mom and I bought 2 skeins of this Rowan Merino Aria yarn. It was like super thick. It's like a bulky weight or an Aran weight, I guess. And this is the colorway Ash. And I bought 2 skeins of it and I knit a cowl using one and part of the second skein, and I just made this up as I went. It's just a broken rib cowl. I used a size 10.5 needle and a tubular cast on, and then I did a broken rib until I thought it was tall enough, and then I did some more 1x1 rib and a tubular bind off. So that's the cowl, and that's for me, unless Caitlin steals it, of course. And then with the leftover, I wanted to use all of the yarn. I didn't want it to go into the stash at all, and so for the leftover bit of that, what I had left, I actually did a headband, ear warmer kind of thing, using that yarn and a 10.5 needle, and I knit it flat and then seamed it up, and it's super cute on her. I think if I were to make it for me, I'd have to make it wider because it was not quite wide enough for me to wear. Whew. So that's all the finished things. All the finished things that I could remember anyway. So let's talk about works in progress now. I have a sweater. I have some socks. I have 2 sweaters actually. One of them is a design that I'm really excited about. But I'm going to start off with, there's some, I was going to say I'm going to start off with the few that I brought from 2021 with me, but all but 2 are from 2021. All right, so the Cozy Knitter socks were not the only Advent, 24 stripe socks I was gonna make. I also got the Freckled Whimsy 24 stripe skein. I got one for me and got one for my mom. This is on her Serendipity base, which is a 75-25 merino nylon blend and fingering weight. And so, oh boy. Let's just throw the ball of yarn on the floor. So same with the Cozy Knitter ones, I had started these and then I had to put them down. Let's see, these I did even fewer days on. I'll show you the one that I have 24 stripes done on. So that is this. I stopped in this bright purple one is where I stopped actually doing it every day. So I had knit the cuffs before in November, and then I did it's very, very short stripe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days. A week. I did a week on each. Each pair. But this is the 24 stripes. These stripes on these are thinner stripes than the Cozy Knitter ones, so I think I'm going to have to knit longer unless I decide I want these to be short socks. So I finished the first repeat of stripes from the first skein, and I'm working now on the second one. Now, that first week where I was working on these, I have each of the socks on a 9-inch circular after the cuff, and I was doing a stripe a day on each sock. But after December was over, I was like, well, I might as well just knit a full one and see how far I get, and then knit the other one. So I'm working on the second one. And the undyed yarn, I don't know, it's probably just Queen City Yarn NODA sock in the birthday suit colorway. I wanted to use undyed for this one. The other one, those Cozy Knitter ones, I did a brown, but these just did undye, and I'm really happy with them. They're beautiful. The stripes it's brighter colorways, I feel like, than the Cozy Knitter ones. They're both so different, but 24 different stripes. I think it's so cool. So I'm still working on these randomly. I'll just continue on with the socks, I guess. These you've seen before too. This is a Nomadic Yarns, Mary Kitschmas, I think. And I had started these thinking like, oh, I'll have time to knit on these too. I don't know where I thought I was going to get all this time in December, but I did not get that time. So this is the yarn, and this is how far I am, which is definitely farther than last time because I have waited in the Starbucks drive-thru and knit on these a few times. I love the way these are knitting up. They don't scream holidays to me, but a little bit I think they do. So I'm excited to have these two. These are on a 9-inch circular, and these are on US 1 needles. So I love the color combination here. They're like fun, but also kind of neutral-ish. Most of the socks in my sock drawer are super fun, like wild colors. I don't have very many pairs of socks that are more like muted or neutral. So those socks are on the needles. I have one other pair of socks on the needles that I have been working on during like meetings, Queen City Yarn meetings via Zoom. So I knit so I can pay attention because that is how I roll. And this has been on the needles for a while. This is Queen City Yarn NODA sock in the stand colorway. This is a charity colorway, and with every skein sold, $10 is donated to Heal Charlotte, which is a place in a nonprofit in Charlotte that helps families in need and also helps to make the communities in which these families live better. So it is a really beautiful colorway. This is the colorway that I used for these. Actually, I'm using leftovers from my Recalibrate tee that I made earlier in 2021. So this is the stand colorway, and then the little tip that I did here for the cast on in the first few rows is pollen season. So I'm knitting a long tube, and then so I'm not sure if these are going to be, I'm pretty sure I'm just going to knit a very long tube and then put a cuff on the other end as well, and then I'll cut them in half and add toes and heels at some point. So that is what I've been working on during Zoom meetings. And that is all the socks. I have, so I told you I had made a pair of ribbed cozy fingerless mitts for my son Ryan, and he likes them, but he really wants a blue pair to match his coat. And this colorway, Bluetiful, from this is Queen City Yarn Biddleville DK in the Bluetiful colorway, is a near perfect match to his jacket. And so I have started the first ribbed mitt for him. So you start out with a 3 and then move to a 4, and I've just moved to the size 4. So a little bit longer and I'll be working on the gusset increases for the thumb. So I'm working on that. And I do intend to write that up at some point. I just don't know when that will be. And the next project I have, my husband spoiled my mom and I for Christmas this year. We both must have been really, really good because he bought us both Clinton Hill cashmere sweaters quantities. He went on the website, which he knows because he had bought me one last year, and he knew how much I loved it, and I wear that sweater all the time, and he really loves that sweater too. He's all about the cozy, and he's like, oh, you're so soft. So this year he went back on that Clinton Hill cashmere website and looked at their kits for sweaters and decided Mom and I needed kits for the siren sweater. And so we're both knitting it. This is a different weight yarn than what I used last year. The yarn that he bought me last year was the worsted weight yarn. This is DK, and it is a totally different knitting experience. I mean, it's absolutely beautiful. I mean, you don't get better than this. It feels so good knitting with it. But because it's a finer gauge, it gives us much different fabric. So the color that he bought for me is light blue. He bought my mom this really beautiful purple color. And so I cast this on. This was my, you know, New Year's cast on, and I've been enjoying working on it so much. So it is a, you know, turtleneck / cowl neck kind of sweater that just rolls down. And so I've done that, separated my sleeves off, and I'm working on the body. I'm about 5 inches probably into the body of the sweater, and I'm so excited about it. I love the color. I love this light color of blue, and it's just incredibly soft. I cannot wait to wear it. So I've been working on that some and really enjoying it. Mom is working on hers also. And so we'll be twinning in cashmere, which is okay. And the last work in progress that I have to show you today is the first version, baby-sized version of the off-the-cuff cardigan. I have a very good friend who is expecting a baby boy in February, and I wanted to knit something extra special for him to welcome him into this world. And so I am knitting an off-the-cuff cardigan for him. I thought this was a great way to try out the construction that I've been dreaming up for this cardigan. It's going to be a raglan cardigan, but I wanted it to all be in the brioche rib pattern that I designed for the hat. And so I needed to figure out how to make that work. And it was a lot of fun. Like, designing the raglan and how the increases are done was reminiscent of figuring out how to decrease them out in the crown of a hat in an aesthetically pleasing way. And so it was a fun hurdle to kind of get over for this design. It is a V-neck, and I'm going to pick up and knit a collar on there. I'm trying to decide whether I want that to be a shawl collar. I'm kind of using this ribbing at the bottom and likely sleeve knitting as a chance to really mold that over and decide what exactly I want it to be. But I'm really excited about it, and I love this green color. I actually don't know the name of the color, but I can tell you I do know what yarn it is. It is Socks That Rock in heavyweight, so it's a DK weight, super bouncy, super plump, superwash merino, and it has been in my stash for more than 10 years because it's older than Caitlin for sure. And so yeah, that's what I'm using, and I'm really loving it. I'm working on that rib and trying to decide about the collar, and excited about doing the sleeves. And working on this baby version really has done exactly what I wanted it to do. I wanted it to bring me joy while I'm thinking about this little man that's coming to join this world. And then also it's helping to kind of build my confidence in designing a garment. And I think starting off with a baby size is really going to work for me. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to offer this, you know, garment in the future in both children's and adult sizes. And I'm both excited and anxious about figuring out how to make a garment that is graded to work, you know, for people of all sizes and all shapes. So that's exciting. And I'll be working with my tech editor to help me like figure all that stuff out. So those are the works in progress and all the things I made and the 2021 review and all the things. So a super long podcast today. I hope that you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out with me. I will say once again that I'm hopeful to get back on a better schedule of recording, and I'm really looking forward to that and bringing all kinds of inspiration to you for your makes. I would love to know what you're working on. If you would drop it in the comments, that would be super awesome. Is there any goals that you have for this year? For me, the GNOME knit along is something that I really want to do this year. I've enjoyed knitting those gnomes. The only ones that I've made so far, aside from the little ornament gnomes and the cabled gnome that I made for my mom this year for Christmas, are the mystery knit along gnomes. And those have been so much fun. And I feel like she'll have those mystery knit-alongs as well this year, and if there are any gnome mystery knit-alongs, I will be joining them because it's a lot of fun. I have a group of girlfriends that that makes them along, and we share pictures of our progress and talk about choosing colors and all that kind of stuff, and so that's really fun and inspirational, and it's just fun to knit along with others, I think. And so the fact that there's going to be this whole year-long gnome knit-along, I think is going to be awesome. So I'm looking forward to joining that. I also really have to get holiday knitting done before December. Like, I have to do that. I don't want it to be December and feel like stressed out about holiday knitting. And for last year, it was stressful trying to get it all done. And so my intention this year is to knit sooner. Work on things sooner. I would like to have a gift knit on the needles at all times. I don't have, well, I guess the mitts are technically for my son, so that is a gift, and the baby sweater. So I do have 2 gifts on the needles, but they're not holiday gifts. So they're like, as soon as they're done, gifts, you know, like, so I need to get some holiday gifts on the needles and kind of think about what do I want to make for the holidays. I know there'll be some socks. I know that the little ones will get hats for sure, the next size up, because they're constantly growing. But I need to kind of plan out what I'm going to do for that. So maybe in a future episode I'll kind of talk about that some. And I want to make some ornaments. I want to make ornaments throughout the year. I did that in 2019 and enjoyed it so much. I made an ornament every month, and sometimes it was like on the top of the list, ready to make, and then sometimes it was because my friend Alexis would send me a text message the last week of the month and be like, hey, have you done that yet? Which was also fun, like, oh no, I need to do something. And so I would like to get back into that because I enjoyed that, and I really, really enjoyed that handmade tree full of handmade ornaments. So yeah, that's another thing I would like to do. And yeah, just keep enjoying knitting, keep designing. I have a whole bunch of ideas for upcoming designs for Kristen Clement Designs, and it's just going to be, you know, making those happen, bringing those to fruition. And I'm excited for what I have to bring to you this year as well. So yeah, I think that's it. I hope that you enjoyed the podcast. If you haven't liked and subscribed, do that. I'd love it. That'd be awesome. Let people know. If you have friends that like to watch podcasts, tell them to grab a drink and a project and come and hang out with me. That would be super awesome too. And until next time, happy knitting. Bye.